we can't necessarily change the government, but we can begin to work to bring people together by simply deciding not to fight. Now,
Exactly. Mm-hmm.
I know, having lived some time, I know that some people have decided to fight, and they don't care what you've decided. But I also know that there are whole countries and civilizations that have said, yes, you have more power, you have more guns, you have more ways to kill us, but we're simply going to protest without violence and without fighting back.
Mm-hmm.
And that method has always won. I mean, people do get killed and injured, but the approach always comes out on top, which I think speaks well of human beings.
Well, it's funny. One of my colleagues, Shirley, thank you, Shirley, has referred me to the Dutch author Rutger Bregman, who wrote the book called Humankind, A Hopeful History. So he believes that people are hardwired to be kind and that generosity makes people stronger, and has come up with a list of 10 rules to live by. And some of those are exactly use with neighbors, like when in doubt, assume, or think in win-win scenarios, or temper your empathy and train your compassion. In other words, don't take on the emotions either for or against someone else, but rather raise your own level of caring and being with passion, or hold your passion, but allow them to hold their passion too. Have you got any other practical tips, Ron, that you might suggest for us to get along with our neighbors in the biggest sense of the world and the real sense of the world, neighbors, people we live by, that might have caused problems earlier in the process during the year?
I think one of the most important things is to do things for people. Now, some years ago, when I was living next to my strong right-wing friend, after we had had many discussions and a few arguments, I had a health problem and could not mow my lawn. And it was a big lawn, and my neighbor came over and mowed it for me. And it was just so wonderful. I mean, I sat inside looking out at him mowing, thinking just how wonderful a human being can be, even though we don't agree. So if there's some way to actually do something practically for people, it changes the picture. Now, you have to be careful if they're. I had another neighbor who just had no interest in conversation or connection at all, and threatened to shoot me if I put a foot into his yard.
Oh, so, dear.
Okay, I'm not really. Oh dear, I'm not really sure what I could do for him, but I kind of left him alone.
Yeah.
But for the people who are your neighbors and friends, do what you can for them. Makes you feel better, makes them feel better. And over the long run, when it comes time for the next disagreement, they look at you differently. They look at you and say, this is somebody who did something for me. They're not just an enemy. They're actually a part of my success picture. So I would say that's
you're valuing the relationship and the friendship over the political disagreement.
Yes.
Yeah.
And politics, it's interesting. Maybe I just wasn't connected, but I remember thinking in my early years, I voted every presidential election, but I remember thinking, I'm not really interested in arguing politics with my neighbors or my family.
Yeah.
It just wasn't an issue. And now it seems like you have to. It seems like this Thanksgiving we won't have any family get-togethers here on our island, but it seemed like
that's because of COVID, right? That's not for political animosity reasons. Yeah.
No, it's because of the pandemic. But
yeah,
I remember in the old days, some people would come and have an Irish family, and there was a lot of differences in beliefs, and we'd sit down at the table at Thanksgiving, and holy cow, there would be arguments. Not all of them politics, but big arguments about family, about work. And yet, I mean, within, I don't know if this is fair, but within an Irish family, those kind of arguments really amounted to nothing. They did
Well,
not
they're normal.
say
That's the kind of discourse they had, isn't it? To be able to interact.
yes, yes, and it was loud.
Mm-hmm.
Now, my wife's family never had those kind of arguments. It was impolite to talk loudly at the dinner table.
Mm-hmm.
And so when we first got together, we're on the same side politically too, but when we first got together, if I had a discussion, she thought I was angry with her.
Mm-hmm.
And so I had to back off. So I think we need, when we're talking, when we're thinking about interacting with someone, we have to figure out, what do they think is normal? What does what does an argument look like, and what does closeness look like? And see if we can bring to them exactly what they're looking for, rather than what we're looking for.
Well, I mean, you said earlier in the call something on the order of, you win nothing by fighting a battle you can't win. That's one aspect of that, which is, so you don't even go there if it's going to lead to just mayhem and adversarialism.
Right.
But also, I have a quote here from F. Scott Fitzgerald, where he says, "The test of a first-rate intelligence is the ability to hold two opposing ideas in the mind at the same time and still retain the ability to function."
Yeah. You should have him on your show.
Yeah, really. That would have been nice. Yeah, but it's more, there's some people that just love to debate or have intellectual discussions, and it doesn't have to wind into this adversarial punch up.
No, you're right. You're right. And there's so many of these things that you think, oh gosh. And we said it when President Trump came in. People are saying it now about Biden. He'll ruin the country. Well, he didn't. And almost nobody who was president has ruined the country. They go in a different direction. They do different things, but we're worried about something that is unlikely to happen.
And if you can do it in 4 years, we're in trouble anyway, right?
Right. I mean, big changes have been made, and we'll see if we can make big changes in a different direction. But I don't think he ruined the country. We have a pretty powerful country, and arguing that being in favor of one issue means you're in favor of destroying the country is just unfair, no matter who's saying it.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I mean, I keep saying to myself when these arguments come up, I ask myself, have you ever changed anyone's political mind? No, I haven't. So what makes you think an argument will do that today? I mean, the most powerful thing that I've seen that worked was somebody making a political argument, and I would ask them questions. I mean, really interested. The people that I have these conversations with are thoughtful people. They don't believe the same thing, but they're thoughtful. So I ask them questions, ask them for facts, ask them for viewpoints, and really pay attention to their point of view and their list of facts. I don't have to change my mind, but I do have to pay attention. And there is something about paying attention that connects with people. They know you're doing it, and they believe that it's a sign of respect. Even if you're not going to change your mind, they believe that and it's true that I respect somebody who I can learn something from. And so it's another way to do it. It's just to really pay attention, not to halfway listen and then argue your point, but really pay attention to what they're saying with questions and observations of your own that don't bring more fight into the conversation.
And I suppose ultimately, as we wrap up in the next minute or so, if people are passionate about certain views, ultimately, like you said, with the vast amount of common ground that we or they actually do have. If you have enough time for civil discourse and can see through our own cognitive biases, the whole point is, how can we make our country and our experience better? And so just to wrap up, with any final words on how we can ourselves and or help our neighbors make our country better based on what we now know?
Based on what we now know. I heard today a story, a video story from a nurse in South Dakota. The Dakotas right now have the highest COVID-19 infections and the highest per capita death rate. And the nurse was really frustrated because she said people are coming in, they don't believe the virus exists. They don't believe they're in serious trouble. And so we tried various things. We tried to help them to, would you like to call your family? Would you like to call your brother, your friend, your neighbor, anyone to connect because you're in serious trouble here? And they would say, no, I'm not, and then die.
Oh, dear.
Now, oh, dear is right. So I think one of the things we have to do is to pay attention to science a little bit more and to conspiracy theories a little bit less. And just in our conversations, in our decisions, pay attention to the way the world really is, rather than the way we think it is, or our email or web viewing tells us it is. What's really going on with the science? What's really going on with the world? I think will make it easier for us to begin to work together.
Awesome. Sounds like get real and let go.
That's a great slogan.
Ron Donovan of Strategic Magic Consulting and Coaching, thank you so very much for sharing with us today from Whidbey Island. Do check in with Ron if you want some excellent executive coaching. And also, I want to thank you, our guest today, for being with us on the SOB Radio Network and Living Legacy Leadership Show. Do look up GameChangerThinking.com as well for more information. And do remember that the life you live is the legacy you leave. And that includes how you treat your neighbors. Thank you. Bye-bye now.